The Minnesota Lynx finally went and lost a home game. Time to panic? I think not. And I'll tell you why. Locked On Women's Basketball Lynx report on this Minnesota Monday starts right now.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday, everybody, and welcome in to this first ever Lynx report episode of Locked On Women's Basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks, as always, for making Locked On Women's Basketball your first listen of the day, every day. Special shout out to our everydayers who never miss an episode. Locked On Women's Basketball is here for you 6 days a week, especially today, the first ever Minnesota Monday. My name's Terry Horstman, and I have been the Minnesota Lynx beat reporter at the Next since the 2023 season. And I'm very happy to be here with you today and ostensibly every Monday through the rest of the W season. That's right. Your Sunday scaries are a thing of the past now that you have Minnesota Monday to look forward to each week. My talented colleague on the Fever Beat, Tony East, has Fever Fridays. So now it's time for Minnesota Mondays. Let's do this. On today's show, I'm talking about all the things that went wrong in the Lynx's loss at home. What a weird sentence to say here in 2025. It doesn't happen a lot, but it did happen on Sunday as the Atlanta Dream came to Minneapolis and came away with a 90-86 victory. That will be our first segment. Coming up in the second segment, we've got to talk about the pair of blowout wins and everything that went right for the Lynx right out of the All-Star break in games against the Chicago Sky and the Las Vegas Aces. And then we'll wrap up with all things Lynx Liberty, the finals rematch from last year, the epic and controversial 2024 WNBA finals. The Lynx are hosting the Liberty on Wednesday. So we'll talk all things Lynx Liberty. We'll obviously have to talk some Emma Meesseman, as Emma is slated to join the New York Liberty and not the Minnesota Lynx, and some of the things that the Lynx can do as we head towards the All-Star break, and not the All-Star break, the trade deadline on August 7th, pardon me. Different targets they could be locked in on, and trade opportunities. They got some cap flexibility. They got the roster spaces. They're not going to sign Emma Meesseman, but that doesn't mean they won't be making moves. So starting with last night, I think the big thing was last night was really the first time I noticed the absence of Carly Samuelson in kind of a big way. And I don't say it like that to diminish Carly and the things she was able to do for this team before her Lisfranc injury in her foot, missing the rest of the season. But in last night's game, Sunday night's game, you have Bridget Carleton going 0 for 3 from the field, 0 for 0 from three-point range. We'll talk more about that. And just not a hot shooting night for Kayla McBride. K-Mac went 2 for 9. Now, BC and K-Mac are both shooters, but they both do a million things well. They're both two of the premier perimeter defenders in this league and are a big reason why the Lynx have had arguably the best defense over the last 2 years, best defense in a ton of categories. Again, this season, coach wasn't pleased with Carleton not getting a 3-point shot off in Sunday night's game. And my colleague, Andrew Dukowitz, said in the post game, it felt like kind of a weird BC game. And coach just said, well said. So BC didn't have it going on the offensive end, and neither did K-Mac going 2 for 9. I think she hit her first shot and her last shot of the game. And with the Lynx chasing, Coach Reeve had to, make some adjustments to get some offensive firepower in there. BC made one mistake in the third quarter early, and Diamond Miller immediately came off the bench. Now, I thought Diamond played pretty well top to bottom. Napheesa Heidemann came in and played in place of K-Mac. There was Court and T, the two stud buds, on the court at the same time for a big chunk of that second half. What kind of happened, though, when you don't have KMAC and BC on the floor at the same time is it just creates too many openings on the perimeter, and the Dream kind of feasted there. The third quarter defense was great. Lynx held the Dream to 5 of 20 shooting. We'll take that all day, every day. I asked about that in the post-game press conference, and coach said, effort's not an adjustment. The effort was there in the third quarter. It wasn't there in the first half. That was the biggest thing on that end of the floor for basically the whole game. It kind of dropped off again in the fourth quarter. But if you feel like you need the offense working and you're not getting it out of BC and KMAC or KMAC, and you need to take them both off the floor, you're really, really hurting the defense and not necessarily getting the same offensive output. So I just think Carly would be kind of that player who can come in off the wing and shoot. You're likely it's rare that KMAC and BC have off offensive nights on the same night. I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't happen again for the rest of the season. But Carly was acquired this offseason to kind of slide into that role that Chechi Zandalicini played last year, where you're not necessarily getting heart and soul first team defense on that end of the floor. But Carly Samuelson's the type of player who's always going to be in the right spot. She's a vet, and she can hit, shots with the best of them. And having, that kind of bench weapon to go to in that space. That's not to say Diamond Miller isn't that. Diamond gives them a lot of things, but I don't know that Diamond is always in the right spot on the defensive end of the floor. She certainly ignited the transition game, gave them, some looks on offense. She hit a three. She hit a really big corner three that cut it to single digits. That was maybe the loudest Target Center was throughout the entire game on Sunday night. But you'd like to have all of the, all the tools in the shed to use at your disposal. And I think I was kind of looking down the roster and down at the bench, like, what can coach do here? Because anytime the Lynx made a run, kind of Atlanta was there to push the lead right back. And it just, the Lynx made it interesting and had a great run in the last 2 minutes to make it close. But Carly Samuelson in the first half would have been great. See if she can get out there and hit a couple threes. Maybe, the defense doesn't quite drop off the same way because she's kind of the same, length and athleticism as, BC. So that was the Carly Samuelson injury because, the team's been winning. So you don't really focus on who's hurt and who's out of the lineup when the team's winning most of the time. And I don't think this loss is anything to freak out about too much. Atlanta's a good team. Carl Smesko maybe has my vote for coach of the year. This is my first year on the media voting ballot. So I'm taking that very, very seriously. So Carl Smesko and what the Dream have done, I think, is deserving of coach of the year level praise. Brittney Griner was unstoppable in the first half. She came in with a season high of 21 points. Her Atlanta Dream high was 21 points. She set a new one with 22 last night, and 17 of those came in the first half. I thought she was going to have 40, all things considered, by the end of the night. And Napheesa Collier had another incredible performance. Sad for it to come in a loss, but 32 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists. She made some history with that last night by tying Maya Moore in Lynx history with 3 such games of 30-plus points, 5-plus assists, 5-plus rebounds. Anytime you're tying Maya Moore for things, you're in a pretty good space. And Fee certainly done that. Fee was exceptional on Friday. I think she stamped her case as MVP. I'm going to talk about that in the second segment here. But yeah, you have 44 games in a season. Hard to play 44 consecutive perfect games. Not to say that the Lynx have been perfect, but I don't think this is anything to lose sleep over, Lynx fans, even if it did feel a little bit weird to lose on that floor. They lost the Commissioner's Cup championship at the Target Center, but as you may recall, the league brings in the special Commissioner's Cup championship floor. So it wasn't technically the Lynx's home floor they played in that night, even though it was the home arena. This was the first loss on the home floor in 2025. So yeah, we'll see how they bounce back on Wednesday, and we're going to talk more Napheesa Collier MVP candidacy right here in the next segment. It's time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite Gulf drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Let's be honest, some days on the course or off it, you just need that extra boost to stay sharp and energized. Maybe you're trying to hole out from the fairway, maybe trying to save par, or maybe you're just, trying to stay up on a late night watching Happy Gilmore 2 on Netflix. Whatever. Golf is all about good times with good people and good flavors, of course. The grape, ginger, lime flavor gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without chasing down the bev cart. If you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that is the number 5hourenergy.com, you can use my promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive 20% off your order. This offer is valid only until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion flavored 5-hour energy shots today. It hasn't been all bad, though, for the Lynx. I know losing at home is not like old hat for Lynx fans this year, but they came out of the All-Star break with a nice long homestand here with days off in between. Only one game where there's only one day in between games after all those back-to-backs leading into the All-Star break. And on Friday night, they hosted a team coming off a back-to-back in the Las Vegas Aces. And I'm sure the Lynx did not feel bad for them at all, as that was basically what the Lynx were doing on a daily basis during the last few weeks before the All-Star weekend in Indianapolis. They had 11 games in 20 days. Some of those back-to-backs being noon camp days, followed by other noon camp days. It was just crazy. So they're not going to feel bad at all about taking advantage of someone coming in maybe a little bit tired. That's part of the WNBA marathon. And that opponent was the Las Vegas Aces on Friday, who lost to the Indiana Fever in Indy the night before. And the Lynx came out and scored a season-high 109 points against Becky Hammon, Asia Wilson. I know the Aces aren't really the Aces of old, but they came in healthy with their, full complement of players. And it was a full-on bona fide beatdown, 109-78. Asia didn't even play in the fourth quarter. Neither did Jackie Young. Becky, said that after the game. She basically just knew, this 25-point game, this is over. They got ran off the floor. It was a Lynx win pretty much from the first quarter onwards. And my takeaway from Friday night's game is, if you had any lingering doubt about the MVP candidacy of Napheesa Collier, it had to have died right there. 25-9 in a 31-point victory against the reigning MVP. And they held Asia to just 15 points in that game. It was the most one of the Aces players scored. Team high 15 for Asia. But it was a pretty comprehensive victory for the Lynx. And Fee shot, 7 of 12 from the floor in that one. She's playing with not an injured shoulder, because she hasn't been on the injury report at all. But if you've been watching the game, you notice on her left shoulder, there's a little bit of a wrap, maybe not a brace, but an extra sleeve for support. That is from a bump she took early against Chicago in the first game back from the All-Star break on last Tuesday. And Fee, after the game, said that it was just, a comfort thing. That and some Tylenol has her feeling good, and she hasn't been on the injury report at all. But still playing with a shoulder that may not feel 100%. It is her left side, but that does affect the shooting motion with your if you're right hand dominant as well. So she shot 10 of 13 from the free throw line in that game, which is fairly good if you're anyone besides Napheesa Collier, who hit 54 consecutive free throws earlier this season. But Fee just commanded the floor in that game, commanded attention from everyone on the Aces. And to me, I think she's running away with it. I know there's, some support now for Alyssa Thomas, who's playing really well, doing all the things that, we have come to expect from AT now in her first year in Phoenix. But even with coming off a loss, I don't see how you can make this argument for anyone else. The Lynx have a 3.5 game cushion on number 2 in the league, and that number 2 team is coming to Target Center on Wednesday night. So there will be some movement in either direction there. We unfortunately won't get to see the Fee Stewie matchup in that game. Again, we'll talk a little bit about that in the next segment, but Fee doing what she's doing and not really slowing down is pretty special. She flirted with the 50, 40, 90 line for a while. I don't think she's going to get it back up to 40% 3-point shooting by the end of the season, but who's to say she can't do anything at this point? It'll still be something like 50, 35, 90, which is pretty amazing. She'll still be in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year again, though that potentially could go to her teammate Alana Smith, which we would all love to see. So I don't see how there is an argument for anyone else. Now, of course, the season's not over. AT could catch her, or there could be some phenomenal run by someone else on another team. I'm not even going to speculate because there's not one immediately jumping to mind of who that could be or what would, need to be done about it. But I think that what Fee has done both numerically in the win column and then also just physically, like she's such a fun player to watch, just how gifted she is, how impressive the footwork is. There are 4 to 5 buckets a night where I turn to either, Andrew Dukowitz or Travis Singleton of Sneaker Reporter or any of my other colleagues in press row. I'm just like, did I really just see that? Please confirm what that was so that I can believe it, because it never becomes normal how good she is at this. And for her to do that in that game against Vegas with A'ja Wilson on the other side, and I love A'ja Wilson. That's an MVP on the other side there. That's, Becky Hammond, of course, rode for A'ja to get Defensive Player of the Year last year, had that great comment about going down rabbit holes to try and find an argument for Fee, which, was amusing, but still, you do that against the best and you have that type of commanding victory against a team with championship aspirations, even if they're not playing like it, but the Aces are fighting for their playoff lives here. And they went into Target Center and got beat like that, with Fee absolutely not holding back. I think, it's her award to lose. And maybe you were already there at this point in the season. I think anyone who has anyone besides Fee as MVP is just, they're just take hunting. They're just being contrarian for contrarian's sake. There's not really a rational argument or any kind of logic that exists on this here planet Earth to make an argument for anyone else. But that doesn't matter to her, as she said over and over again. It's not about personal accolades. It's all about team goals. And there's only one team goal of interest to Napheesa Collier and everyone else on the Minnesota Lynx, and that's winning a championship. And in their next game, they play the team that denied them of that opportunity in the 2024 WNBA Finals. But finally, the Minnesota Lynx and the New York Liberty will play a basketball game for the first time since last October on July 30th. We're going to, get excited for this. I'm going to, chat with my friend on the Liberty Beat, Jackie Powell, on this here podcast channel tomorrow. I would love to hear from the league why it's been this long that the two teams in the finals haven't seen each other. And about a week and a half after this, the Lynx will play the Liberty 3 times in a row in mid-August. I think it's only 2. It's 3 and 4 for the Liberty. They have a game wedged in between there at one point. So they play the Lynx twice, and then they have a game and then see the Lynx again. But it's 3 in a row for the Lynx. I don't know if we're hoping to create some kind of regular season finals atmosphere, but we're going to talk all about that team, the New York Liberty. They're new-ish, potentially new, soon-to-be incoming player, and whether we'll see her in any of these games in the next segment. All right. In the final segment here on the Lynx Report on the Locked On Women's Basketball feed, we're talking Fee. We're not talking Stewie. We're talking Sab because Stewie's not going to play. But we're talking Lynx Liberty at Target Center in Minneapolis on Wednesday, July 30th. This game has been a long time coming. And it's kind of it's poetic in many ways, and then also relevant when you think about the Lynx through the lens of their last game here and losing on their home court for the first time. Liberty just got shocked by the Los Angeles Sparks at Barclays on Saturday. It happens. That is, the game that Stewie got hurt in, just 3 minutes into the game. So it obviously affected the course of the game. It obviously, you take one of the best players in the world off the floor, it opens things up for any opponent. And the Sparks are playing really well. But in this same weekend, we see the Liberty fall at home to the Los Angeles Sparks and the Lynx fall at home to the Atlanta Dream. It's professional basketball. It's a deep league. It's a talented league. Any team can pop on any night. So both teams have a little bit of a sour taste of recent games that they'll be trying to wash away on Wednesday night. And the Liberty will be doing it without Brianna Stewart, without Nyara Sabally. Lynx will be without Carly Samuelson, of course, as Carly's out for the year. As of now, though, it's a clean injury report otherwise. So the Lynx will have a more full arsenal of their various basketball weapons than New York will. And this is going to be an exciting one. It's an exciting one for the fans. Upper Bowl at Target Center will be open. I don't know if we'll see a complete sellout. I hope we do. It's going to be a great atmosphere, no matter what. ESPN game, prime time, Fee versus Sab, Alana Smith versus Jonquel Jones. That obviously was, one of the biggest matchups in the finals last year. I think, Lan got a ton of fans for life with just the ruthless heart and soul effort she showed against Jonquel in a tough spot. And of course, Jonquel ends up winning finals MVP with them on the right side of the scoreboard in game 5 there. So this is a game that they've all been waiting for. I think I've heard Coach Fee and Courtney Williams mention when talking about the schedule this year, just like, what we're waiting 2.5 months before we can see the Liberty in a game. Like, don't you think the fans want to see these two teams in a game earlier than that? There's a chance that they'd meet in the Commissioner's Cup. Liberty, lost one of those games late, so they didn't get to play in the Commissioner's Cup final, which would have been a rematch of last year's Commissioner's Cup final. These teams played 9 times last season. The Lynx actually won 5 of them when you include the regular season games, the Commissioner's Cup final, and the finals. And there is a very high chance that the 4 games that they play in this regular season will not be the last. And remember, the finals this year will be a best of 7 series between these two teams. I would just pencil it in for 7, just block off the calendar for the full range of dates that the finals could take up. We won't see her yet, but the Liberty, who won the finals last year, also won the Emma Meesseman sweepstakes. WNBA champion with the Washington Mystics, Eurobasket champion and MVP with Team Belgium, superstar player for Turkish Giants Fenerbahce, where she played with Napheesa Collier and Kayla McBride. Been coached by Eric Thibault, but she has a lot of connections on the New York Liberty as well. Liberty have a bit more cap space, so I don't know if money came into Emma's decision to go with New York and not Minnesota, but that's something that, once the numbers become available, we'll pay attention to. I'd like to, see what she was able to get from the Liberty. And yeah, it's hard because there's only one real game-changing free agent on the market. There's not an obvious next player to pivot to. So the Lynx miss out on the Emma Meesseman sweepstakes. And I'm sure they are working the phones right now to kind of try and figure out something. I'm not sure what the most obvious target is. Aaliyah Edwards with the Washington Mystics was in trade rumors and talks earlier this season. She has not yet been traded. And, the Lynx just seem to love making deals with the Mystics. The deadline deal for Maisha Hines-Allen last year, which was a great acquisition for them. Trading for Carly Samuelson this offseason. Let's make it 3 trades in 2 years. Why not? And see if Aaliyah Edwards is a little bit better of a fit here. Aaliyah, part of the 2024 draft class. So there's a couple more years left of team control on that contract. That's another reason why I think she would be a compelling target, not only for what she brings to the post, but everyone in the league is a free agent after this season. We have no idea what the CBA is going to look like. I'm still being a hopeful optimist that there won't be any kind of work stoppage associated with this, despite the fact that the league has given us zero reason to believe that they are going to get this done by the October 31st deadline. Not focused on that right now. Mid-season, we've got games to talk about. We've got trade deadlines to talk about. But when you think about the future, Aaliyah Edwards is a player that, slots in nicely and then will also just not be a free agent this January. And that sounds kind of nice. The only thing I don't want the Lynx to trade is next year's Chicago Sky first round pick. Not saying that would be part of the discussions for Aaliyah Edwards, but any team that's giving up any kind of star player, they're going to ask about that pick first. The Lynx don't have their own first round pick next year to trade. It already belongs to the Mystics. So, hey, Washington, why not keep building off that? And they don't have their second round pick next year either. They can trade the pick. They can trade the Chicago Sky's first round pick or their own third round pick in next year's draft. And then they have their full complement of draft picks in 2027 and 2028. I don't know that I give up a 2027 first for Aaliyah Edwards, but that might be the price. And I would bank on the Lynx being good enough again in 2026 that's a pretty low draft pick. 2 more teams coming into the league. That pick is probably 13, 14, 15. You hope. But we haven't gone through free agency yet next season. We haven't gotten the new CBA. So you really can't guarantee anything. We keep talking about this. It's one of the craziest times ever in league history for any league. It's going to be the absolute Wild West. We'll see. And we won't see Emma Meesseman with her new team this Wednesday. Probably in one of those 3 games in August we will. But, this immigration stuff, visa stuff to get cleared up, which is never easy. And we don't have an ETA on Emma's arrival. But I would bank on the Lynx seeing her in one of, if not all 3 of those matchups with the Liberty in August. But a fun one coming to the Target Center on Wednesday night, even without Brianna Stewart playing. I will be on Locked On Women's Basketball again tomorrow with the great Jackie Powell, talking all things Lynx, Liberty. It will be after Lynx practice tomorrow, so I've gotten a chance to chat with the players and Coach Reeve about it before that. So it's going to be great. Tune in and make sure you are listening to everything we have at the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day. And how about for your second listen, find the Locked On NBA podcast, where there is no offseason. Doug, Matt, and Hayes keep you up to date on contract negotiations, rumors, and everything you need to be the most informed NBA fan. Find Locked On NBA on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.